The room is warm. Too warm, not by accident. Heat dulls resistance. Heat keeps bodies obedient. Heat prevents people from leaving too quickly. Gas lamps hiss, bleeding yellow light across velvet curtains and polished wood. Crystal glasses fracture that light into shards that crawl along the walls. People are laughing, not loudly, not crudely. This is educated laughter, the kind that knows when to stop. A woman tightens her gloves. A man clears his throat. Someone checks a pocket watch. They are waiting. At the center of the room lies a long object on a table, wrapped, bound, still. It does not breathe. It does not move. It has not done either for thousands of years. This is not a funeral. This is not an examination. This is entertainment. Tonight's centerpiece is a human body, imported, preserved, legally removed from its grave, a mummy. And in moments in front of London's wealthiest minds and most respectable faces, it will be unwrapped, piece by piece. And do not pretend distance protects you. If you were wealthy enough, educated enough, and alive in this century, you would not be watching this. You would be invited. When a civilization became objects, Victorians did not think of themselves as cruel. Cruelty requires awareness. They thought they were advanced. By the early 1800s, Egypt was no longer a civilization to Britain. It was inventory. Napoleon opened the door. Scholars followed soldiers. Museums followed scholars. Collectors followed money. Hieroglyphs translated. Temples measured. Tombs cataloged. History flattened into lists. But knowledge was not enough, because knowledge does not satisfy ownership. The elite wanted something stronger: access, control, possession, and Egypt offered bodies, thousands of them. Long before the parties, mummies were already destroyed, ground into medicine, burned as fuel, crushed into pigment called mummy brown. The dead were already useful. Now they would be entertaining. The night applause became permission. The first unwrappings were public: lecture halls, medical theaters, universities. One man made them famous: Thomas Pettigrew, surgeon, antiquarian, celebrity. In the 1830s, Pettigrew unwrapped mummies before sold-out audiences in London. He lectured while cutting, explained burial rituals while peeling bodies open. People leaned forward. They watched linen tear. They inhaled air sealed since the Bronze Age. And when the face was revealed, they applauded. That sound changed everything. Because applause is not curiosity. Applause is approval. After that, the unwrappings moved into private homes, where there were no tickets, no records, no limits. Science as a mask. By the 1830s, mummy unwrapping parties were fashionable. Aristocrats, industrial magnates, doctors, collectors. An invitation meant power. It meant you were wealthy enough to buy a corpse and educated enough to pretend it wasn't violence. A surgeon presided. Latin replaced guilt. Terminology replaced shame. Authority replaced conscience. This was not desecration. This was learning. Then the first cut was made. Linen tore, not loudly, dryly, like fabric that had forgotten movement. The smell arrived seconds later, sharp, dusty, sweet, rotting. That was when the room changed, because beneath the wrappings was not myth, it was skin. The moment nobody stood up, the structure was always the same. Guests arrived, wine flowed, music softened the edges. The mummy was displayed, not as someone, as something, an object, a specimen, a centerpiece. Comments were made, jokes whispered, then knives came out, scissors, blades, sometimes fingers, layer by layer. Conversation slowed, then stopped. Joints appeared, fingers, teeth, human proportions. This body had once loved, once feared, once resisted death, and no one stood up. The paragraph that should not be here. This is the part history documentaries avoid, because it implicates the listener too directly. You think the difference between them and you is time. It isn't. It is packaging. Give a modern audience a sealed coffin, an expert narrator, a cultural justification, and a controlled environment. And they will lean forward the same way. Not because they are evil, because curiosity feels harmless when someone else absorbs the blame. The Victorians didn't think they were monsters. Neither do you. That is the danger. The smell they couldn't escape. Victorian accounts rarely describe the smell because it ruined the fantasy. Mummies were not dry relics. They carried resin, decay, mold, and chemical preservation. Witnesses compared it to libraries left to rot, burnt spices mixed with death, sweetness turning acidic in the throat. Some guests fainted, some vomited, some left early. The unwrapping continued. Discomfort was not a warning, it was evidence. Complicity had a dress code. Women attended. They watched, they reacted, they stayed. Victorian morality did not fail. It adapted. Authority spoke first. Language anesthetized harm. Distance erased responsibility. This was not a person. This was antiquity. And antiquity could be touched. What was erased forever? Every unwrapping destroyed history. Bandaging techniques, amulets, organic material, DNA, context. Once exposed, most bodies were discarded, cut apart, distributed, forgotten. Victorians believed they were preserving the past. They were dismantling it. The dead became an economy. Demand created supply. Grave robbing surged across Egypt. Children sold as nobles. Animals sold as humans. Fragments stitched into lies. British buyers did not ask questions. The spectacle mattered more than truth. The real curse. Victorians joked about curses. They missed the real one. Molds, spores, toxins. Modern science confirms many mummies carried lethal pathogens. Unwrapping released them into sealed rooms. Some guests fell ill, some died young. No one connected cause and effect. When fascination turned into shame, by the late 19th century, attitudes shifted. Science improved. Ethics sharpened. Public judgment intensified. Unwrapping parties vanished. Not because they were immoral, because they were embarrassing. Museums replaced parlors. Glass replaced knives. But the damage was irreversible. Thousands of bodies destroyed, not by time, by entitlement. What this was always about. This was never about Egypt. It was about power, about proving that even death, even eternity, even sacred burial could be owned, handled, consumed. Victorians called it progress. History calls it desecration. You don't get to step out. The guests went home. They slept. They ate. They lived. The body did not. It lay exposed, half unwrapped, abandoned. A person prepared for eternity, destroyed in an evening. This was not curiosity. This was consumption. And do not reassure yourself that this ended. Civilizations do not announce when they stop respecting the dead. They reveal it quietly, in private rooms, among educated people who believe they are better. This has been the lost past. Stay here.